Hey guys, what's up? It's Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews here with another one of these videos because some people said they were kind of interesting. Um, yeah, this is movies I saw as a child that I probably shouldn't have, and they made me into a weirdo. I've got a handful of titles here. I mainly pulled them off the shelves because I didn't want to write them down. So, starting with the most recent and then just going kind of down, I want to start with House of a Thousand Corpses. Okay, so House of a Thousand Corpses. I saw this movie in its entirety when I was probably about 13 or 14 years old. I was about to enter high school, and I'd always wanted to see it because I saw The Devil's Rejects, and I really liked it. And that was before I realized that it's kind of not a very good movie. And, yeah, I wanted to see it, and I saw it, and I was really confused by it. The weird, kind of surreal segments of the film that are almost like music videos, that almost feel like they're straight out of a music video, just kind of don't work. I appreciate them now, and I appreciate the film's more comedic, weird, oddball tone overall. But the one thing I remember is I remember watching a part of this on like VHS when I was very, very like right when it came out on home media, and the scene I remember in particular, and this got distorted in my mind over the years. The scenes I remember were the scene where they go into the house and there's like a paper skull and crossbones on the door. And I remember that like specifically creeping me out. I couldn't explain to you today why that would creep me out. I remember that. I remember them finding the corpse in the trunk of the car with Boo carved into it. And I remember that being a pretty scarring experience. And I remember the scene where Baby scalps that guy after he couldn't guess that her her favorite actress was Betty Davis. And those are the things I remembered from it for years and years and years. And yeah, upon watching it, years and years later, I discover a movie that I have a genuine love for. I genuinely believe that House of a Thousand Corpses is Rob Zombie's greatest film. It is his most original, most interesting movie. It's a great seasonal film, and as you can see, I'm being extremely seasonal with my dress, with my, how I'm dressed. So, yeah. Yeah, House of a Thousand Corpses. That's the first one. On to another one that I saw when I was probably a little too young. Mars Attacks. Mars Attacks. I still have a great love for this movie as well, but I remember catching some of this on like cable when I was really, really young, and the scenes I remember particularly were the scene was the scene where the Martians come to the planet and one of them kills Jack Black. I remember that, and that being something that was kind of scary. And then when you get to like the human experiments that are done on the ship, and that I remember making me feel genuinely really fucking queasy. I wouldn't say that I've always been a bit of a gore hound, because even today there's some moments where violence and gore will really get to me. And the human experiments in Mars Attacks got to me majorly when I was a kid. As I've grown up, they don't bother me, but they're definitely, it's not pleasant. I actually think Mars Attacks probably would have worked a bit better for me personally if they would have just gone full R rating with it and really made it a crazy, super weird, like oddball horror fucking sex comedy. Like, have the Martians like looking for fucking women to mate with and stuff. Like, just make it off the wall fucking crazy. That's what I would have done with it. If I was Tim Burton. But you know what? Studio interference, they wouldn't let that happen. They wouldn't let me make Mars Needs Women 2.0. So what's the point in living? Alright. Hellraiser. I need to upgrade my copy of Hellraiser. Hellraiser. So, I had always assumed that Hellraiser, because of the poster artwork, because of the appearance of Pinhead, I had always assumed that it was a supernatural slasher film, kind of like, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think that that's what a good amount of people assume when they first see the cover art for it and everything. And I'm sure a lot of people are probably disappointed by it when they finally do see the film. And I know I was disappointed when I first saw this film. However, well, in its entirety. However, I remember I was in middle school. And I was home sick from school. And I was watching just random stuff on cable. And on Chiller, remember Chiller? That was a fucking channel that existed. I remember on Chiller, like in the middle of the fucking day, they were broadcasting like Hellraiser 1 and 2, and I caught like the ending of the first Hellraiser where Frank gets ripped apart, and I caught like the labyrinth scene and like some of the labyrinth scenes in the second one. I don't think I watched either of them in their entirety. I think I might have switched back and forth between that and like a pup named Scooby-Doo or something like that. That might have been on, cable. I'm trying to get my worm baby in frame. But I remember seeing it and seeing these scenes from the film and being immediately like interested and kind of obsessed with this, with the mythos of this character and this world. And I remember like immediately getting on the internet and trying to find all this information about the backstory and everything of Pinhead. And when I say trying to find the backstory, I mean I went to the Wikipedia page and scrolled up and down it, reading it over and over again for like an hour and a half, because that's as far as research went when I was that young. Hell, that's as far as research goes today for me. Years after that, I buy this copy for $5 from Walmart. It had a slipcover. I couldn't tell you where the slipcover went. Genuinely, I couldn't. But I buy it and I watch it, and I'm immediately fucking disappointed because Pinhead isn't in it, like, at all. He has a total of like 3 minutes of screen time in the whole movie. And I know that is like one of the things that people kind of seem like, people I've talked to about it seem disappointed because Pinhead is barely in it. But it's really more of a story about the human characters, and the novella, The Hellbound Heart, is just as good, and this is pretty much a 1-to-1 adaptation of it. And Clive did a great job of putting his own source material onto film. Alright, next is House, the 1986 horror comedy film. Alright, so House, interesting relationship with this one. My aunt, the one who passed away, I hate to have to keep saying that because, like, I feel like it's a downer every time I say it, but simultaneously I just kind of want to, like, kind of give the impression that my aunt had a very, very big, was a very big part of my life, and she was a very big part of why I'm into the things I'm into. she DVR'd House. It was on like AMC, and I remember immediately the theme song with the violin. I remember that fucking theme song getting under my skin immediately, and I would try to sleep at night on random fucking nights, and I would immediately start thinking of that violin playing, and I could not sleep for a good couple of hours. But I remember seeing House when I was pretty young, and I watched it up until the point where William Cat opens the closet and the monster comes out and like claws his chest. That horrified me, and I immediately deleted it off the DVR and didn't finish it for a number of years. And then I rented it off Netflix and watched it with my cousin. And I remember telling her, like, look, you sure you want to watch this? This was like the scariest fucking movie I saw when I was a kid. And we watched it, and I was sitting there like, this was scary to me. Like, this is fucking, this is comedy. I mean, the film is a dark comedy. But I just remember thinking, like, this was scary to me. Like, this was nothing. Why was I scared? And this was one of the big evolutions for me as a horror fan, where I kind of realized that, like, man, you know, I can grow to be not afraid of things. And that's just simply by growing up and realizing that special effects are just special effects. Alright, up next, we got Halloween. I'm pretty sure everybody saw Halloween as a kid. You know, and, I mean, yeah, Halloween is a classic. It's a classic film. Some might even say it's a bit boring because it's so classic. And while I could definitely agree with that, I do think that it deserves its place in horror history. And I remember the first time I saw it. I swear, I had never heard of it before. And then, out of nowhere, my aunt taped it off TV, and she taped an airing of it that was on like ABC. And this was when I was like really, really young. I was like 6 or 7, maybe 8 years old. And I wasn't thoroughly like scared by it, but it definitely brought me on a crash course of horror from a young age. Like, this is definitely one of the first big ones for me, because I really liked it when I first saw it. I couldn't explain to you why, because I swear if I would have seen it like 2 years later, if I would have seen it for the first time like 2 years later in life, I would have called this boring and overrated. But like, genuinely, you know, Halloween's classic. Halloween is an amazing movie, and I kind of don't know what else to say about it. I will say the most recent time I saw it, which you'll see right here with this receipt/ticket, I actually very recently saw it at the drive-in, which was a really great experience to see it. It was a surreal, mystical, strange, yet strangely nostalgic and creepy experience to sit in an empty, cold drive-in on an Ohio evening, like 11 o'clock at night. The moon had risen from behind the screen, and that was the only source of light other than, you know, the screen itself, which, I mean, to be fair, doesn't really give off much light, especially when you're watching a film like Halloween. And I was sitting there in the cold, drinking a Coke, eating handfuls of fucking spicy hot cheese popcorn, and just and I could hear the audio coming clearly from the car stereo next to me, and buzzing very, very fuzzily the out of the speaker on my left. And it really made the film a lot creepier to have this binaural audio of it going on while I'm sitting there in the freezing fucking cold. But lo and behold, this is not the final movie to talk about, because we are going in order from newest to oldest. The last film I want to mention is Johnny Got His Gun. I don't know what I was thinking by buying this film with my allowance when I was as young as I was, but I probably shouldn't have, and I probably shouldn't have grown up and read the novel adaptation, or the novel it's adapted from. Bit of a backstory. Johnny Got His Gun is a novel by Dalton Trumbo, a novel from 1939. It is an anti-war novel about a World War I soldier who is hit with an artillery shell and left with no arms, no legs, no face. He is essentially a sack of fucking potatoes in a bed. But he's completely aware of himself. He knows he's alive, but he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't have a face. And he doesn't know necessarily what's going on around him. Dalton Trumbo was blacklisted from Hollywood, labeled a communist for writing this novel and everything. And in the 70s, he turned it into a movie. The movie is one of the most harrowing things I think I've ever seen. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I love it, and I genuinely think it's a great film, and I think the novel is an even better piece of fiction that is well worth reading. But this film is just, it's exactly what the novel is. Except in the film, you have the comfort of knowing exactly what's going on around Joe when he is laying there thrashing in bed, because you see what's happening around him. In the novel, you don't get the comfort of knowing what's going on. And that makes the reading it a lot more claustrophobic and a lot more uncomfortable. I know I'm mainly talking about the novel here, but like, my appreciation of this film and the fact that it didn't, and the fact that it did what it did to me as a kid, as a teenager, almost as a teenager, I guess. And the fact that it affected me the way that it did is a big part of who I am now. Because I remember getting through high school and always saying to myself, I'm going to read Johnny Got His Gun. Eventually. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. And then I finally read it when I was in my 20s. And I was like, God damn, this is an absolutely uncomfortable read. Why did I do this to myself? But yeah, Johnny Got His Gun is the last film. It's not necessarily an explicit film. I would say that, like, at worst, it's like a PG-13. There's some nudity in there, like, briefly. But that doesn't necessarily mean that this is a film you should show to children. In fact, a good friend of mine had never seen the film until very recently, after I told him, like, dude, you gotta see this movie, it's really good. And he told me that he had seen it on cable in a hotel when he was very, very young, and it gave him nightmares. And I could imagine seeing snippets of this on cable and thinking that it was horrifying. Lucky enough, I wasn't a kid when I saw this, but this film is still an absolute fucking nightmare. It's like just an absolutely amazing piece of film, and it's wild that, at least as far as my knowledge, off the top of my head, that this film does not have a Blu-ray release for some fucking reason. It's got a DVD release, but no Blu-ray. But yeah, that's it. I was trying to like set up to do a thumbnail, but fuck it, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. Anyway, guys, that's it for this one. This is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews, signing off. Peace.